The Clover Hill JV football team would enter game number 6 of the season, still somewhat bruised up after 2 very physical games. Huguenot would kick to the Cavaliers to get the game into motion, and Chris Smith would return the ball, leaving the Cavs with good field position. But the Clover Hill offense just could not capitalize, and after 3 plays, they would be forced to punt away. The Falcons must have caught the Cavalier defense sleeping, for on their first play, the run around the end would go all the way in for a touchdown. The defense of Clover Hill bounced back to stop the extra point attempt, but early in the game, the Cavs were down 6-0. Again, Smith would give the Cavaliers good field position with a kick return that would bring them to just short of the 50-yard line. The Cavaliers made somewhat of an advance on this possession as they worked their way against the Falcon defense with the efforts of Frankie Snyder, Michael Haynes, A.J. Clanton, and Josh Bailey. But a holding penalty would move the Cavs back and force them to punt the ball away, and the Falcons would once again retain possession. It was now up to the defense of Clover Hill to avenge itself for giving up an early touchdown. And with a good push by the line and a couple of strong tackles by Spence Brennan, the Cavaliers would force the Falcons to punt the ball away. The kick was short and rolled out of bounds, leaving the Cavalier offense with good field position and looking to get some kind of a push to get points on the board. The first quarter wound down with the Cavalier offense still unable to make a drive against the Falcons of Huguenot, and Huguenot would take the ball over early in the second quarter. The Falcons again were having success as they drove against the Cavalier defensive line, moving the ball down the field, only to be held up occasionally by a good play like this one by Travis Tunstall as he burst through the line to make the tackle. The Falcons, however, would again find the end zone with a 35-yard pass play that would leave the Cavaliers stunned. Huguenot would follow it up by picking up the 2-point conversion, and it would be 14 Falcons, Cavaliers 0. The only highlight for the Cavaliers in the first quarter were the special teams, as A.J. Clanton gave the Cavaliers another great kick return. But the offense again would be shut down. A Josh Bailey scramble for yardage, and an incomplete pass, and a near sack that Bailey would get back to the line of scrimmage with, left the Cavaliers having to rely on Dakota Thistle's punt, which put the Falcons deep in their own territory. The defense would give up a few yards on this run by the Falcons, but penalties and a now more determined Cavalier defense would shut down the drive by the Falcons. Clover Hill nor Huguenot could make any movement on their next possessions, and the teams would head to the halftime break with the Falcons still holding a 14-point advantage over the Cavaliers. The Falcons would take the kickoff for the opening of the second half, but the offense of Huguenot found a much more aggressive and determined Cavalier defense. Zach Burkholter on the sack, and then 2 plays later, it would be Chris Smith picking off the Falcon pass to put the Cavalier offense back on the field and in good field position. The Cavaliers would make some progress on this offensive possession, but even the occasional gain like this one by number 2 A.J. Clanton could not seem to get the Cavaliers back in the game. And at this point, Bailey was still having trouble connecting with his receivers downfield. Clover Hill's defense was still pumped up from the last quarter of play, and as the team looked into the final quarter of the game, they knew time was starting to run out, and that big plays would help get the tide rolling the other way. The defense seemed to have come around in the second half as again the Cavaliers would get the ball back and in good field position due to a botched punt by Huguenot. Clover Hill's offense would not disappoint this time as Josh Bailey saw an opening in the line and brought the Cavaliers down the field. Then it was Bailey to Zach Burkholter, and the Cavaliers would finally find their way into the end zone. The Cavaliers would fail on the extra point attempt and would now set the kickoff down 14-6. The Cavaliers' attempt at an onside kick failed, and the Falcons now held the ball at near midfield with time running out. But again, the defense of Clover Hill came out with one thing in mind, to stop the Falcon offense. And stop them they would, forcing the Falcons to punt with time enough for the Clover Hill offense to attempt several more plays. The Cavaliers were deep in their own territory, and Bailey launched several bombs downfield, but the Falcons had his receivers covered, and the Cavaliers would have to accept their third loss of the season, matching their win record at 3 wins, 3 losses, with 4 games remaining in the season.